Start recording.
Yep.
You good? All right. Here we go. Putting on the big old, what are these called? Fixtures. Fixtures, because I get JB Weld on my finners, and then I got dirty finners, and it never gets better. These gloves, these are thick, but the big thing is they don't break under my hands are real big. And my giant hands need giant gloves. I am mixing up the JB Weld. This is real technical right here. You gotta, it's like science. You need equal parts is really all you need. It's really not that fancy. What we're trying to do here is put some heavy inserts in Genevieve's arrows, right, Genevieve?
Yeah.
We're gonna put these are real heavy, man. I can barely get this bag. It's so heavy. These are 110 grainers right there. Big old brass inserts. But we're just gonna, you can see if you look at these, they've got little grooves in them, okay? And the key is to have some of that epoxy in each of the grooves. You can use other glues for these. There is no end to the different types of product you can use. What I like about these things too, and I like about the fact that we're gonna have a little bit of heavy, these brass inserts, if you can get right where you need to be with your camera so that you get video of this. But I'm gonna glob it on here.
Glob it on.
But it's gonna smear as I'm sliding it up and sliding it into the arrow. It is going to smear a little bit. I'll get clean portions of gloves, grab that dude, and we'll set him right there, getting him ready to go. This stuff, it says, like I said, it takes forever, not a problem. I am gonna show you what I did first, before we get going on it. Before we insert that, I have, this is a pistol cleaning or rifle cleaning little kit. It just happens to fit in there nice. We did this earlier. Blow that out, not a problem. Very good. I'm gonna grab one of these dudes, a Q-tip. We are gonna grab the cap here and we're gonna open this up, put some denatured alcohol or acetone, whatever this is. What is it?
Nail polish remover.
Nail polish remover. I think it's, is it acetone?
I don't know.
Or whatever it is. It's whatever it is. Okay.
Yeah.
But we got that dude. We're just going to give it a good ream in here. You like that word, Genevieve? It's a terrible word, I know. But it's kind of what we're doing. We're cleaning out that thing. And you can see that there is some dust that comes out of that. Real good on there. But it's really getting the glue residue out of there. I'm going to use, this is a single use for the Q-tip. Dry it good like that. Let that sit and dry. I'm going to grab another one and do the next dude whilst we wait. I'm going to leave that. Let that soak in here. Get these. I think we did all three of these, didn't we?
Yeah.
Very good. The two closest to me will be the ones that we are doing now. Very good. Clean those two out. I'm going to take this little dude, put it in there, give it a good cleaning out there, like that. Oop, get my own way. Flip it around. And do that. That way we don't have a lot of dust in here, and that way you're not having it sit, it won't interfere with the adhesive getting in there. You know, we want to make sure that that adhesive has a nice clean channel of carbon arrow shaft to adhere to, and it won't be a problem. But you can see we're getting a little dust out there. We cleaned them out earlier too, but it has to go up as far as the you don't have to clean the whole shaft, obviously, just far enough to make it the same so that that insert, when we put it in there, it will work. Now, I think we're ready to go with that. Look in there and make sure it's dry. Well, we had a heck of a time getting the inserts out of these, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a problem. I'm just going to put this in here. It is not boiling, but it's getting close. Excalibur apparently has very good glue. Just gotta be careful you don't go burning yourself. That's the thing. Come on. Let go. Man, maybe we aren't gonna get these out of there. Alright, we're done with this. I've done this in the past, and this has worked in the past. Boiling water is supposed to work. I don't know what the problem is. It's heat. Heat is heat, right? So it just wasn't liking it. All I'm doing is putting the tip of the soldering iron in the aluminum insert just for a second here. I'm going to do that for like 10, 15 seconds, something like that, and then just repeat. You can feel the heat creeping up that carbon shaft, but you don't want to overheat the carbon shaft. The key is get your pliers on that and try and pull that out before the glue seizes back up and before your hot soldering iron cools down too much. So I'm just holding that on there. I'm going to count 10, 15, something like that. And then we'll give it a few seconds and we'll come back to it. Oh yeah, we're coming. See her coming?
Yep, there it goes.
Now, it ruined the arrow. So there you go. Yep.
Thanks, Excalibur.
Yeah. Well, it's not Excalibur's fault. I mean, they put it in there good and it worked, right? But look at that glue. I'm telling you.
That is a long insert.
That's a long insert, but it's very light when it weighs next to nothing. But it's just a long aluminum insert. The, is what it is. So what we could do, we could always cut this down. I am not going to do that, however. But it's a shame. You could always cut this off with a Dremel, square it up. There's tools for that. There's arrow saws for that. But it is just, that's the risk that you take. All right, look at that.
There we go.
Got a good one. This is the way it's supposed to go, okay? That'll cool right off. You don't want to be heating a carbon. You just want to heat that up so the glue gives away. And maybe there's ways to do this with a hair dryer. Leave comments on that kind of stuff. I've used this tool with success over and over and over. This is the method that I've used. And, I mean, for the most part, it works, so I don't have a problem with that. The boiling water method should have worked, kid. I don't know why we had trouble with that.
That was weird. Yeah.
Weird. So here we have a spinal tap. These are very much front of center, heavy weighted arrows. I love these things. This is what I killed the wild boar with at the 3rd ever Death by Bunjie meet and greet. 40-yard shot with these bad boys. They have a screw-in system here, right? This is my handy-dandy piece of walnut from my dad's old wood shop, and I put a screw in it. But that basically is what they say you can use that to pull your arrow out of the target. Problem with that is I pulled the insert out of the target, not the arrow from time to time, so I don't really use it for that purpose, but it supposedly would work for that. But these are probably glued in here real good. I don't know what Spinal Tap uses. Well, these weren't Spinal Taps. I don't know what the company that made these arrows, courtesy of Spinal Tap, but the company that made them, I'm not sure what they use for glue, so maybe this isn't going to work. If they use an epoxy that is not glue sensitive or heat sensitive rather, then that would be a problem. But I am going to try and remove this dude this way just to show you how I've done it in the past. Now these are the screw-in style knock. So it's a flat knock with a little bit of heat on there. If I get this tool screwed in there fast enough, right, like that, now I can pull on that. And it's coming. It came right out. Now, perfect example here. See, that didn't hurt that arrow at all. It's got glue on it, but that glue can clean right up. Not a problem. We're very good there. We have a very healthy arrow. How's that? So, this is a quick video. Just going to show you how I'm going to shorten up these arrows. How do you shorten up an arrow? We use the Dremel. Well, what I'm doing, just to give you an idea here, I do have some longer 20-inch ProFlights. I don't plan on using those with the original Bunjie anymore. I have kind of grown attached to the 20-inch spinal taps that were gifted to me. These heavier arrows, greater front of center. These are a nice arrow to be using for this purpose. And you can see the front of center. They're real nice arrows. And I got a couple of those left here. I'll probably order some more to sort of complete that collection. And I use the main hunters. Those are somewhere else here. I've got a box of those that I used on my bear hunt. They're sort of in between these, the ProFlights, which are around 262, 270 grains or so, maybe a little heavier with the Luminoc installed. But these are like 600 grains with new Fletch installed, the igniter nocks. The point is this: I got 3 arrows for her, but man, 3 arrows, and these are, man, they are front of center heavy on these. This is a nice front of center. Look at that. For a 16.5-inch arrow, that's pretty nice, isn't it? I think that's pretty cool with that 150 grain broadhead. But I only have 3 of them. And the other thing I like about these are these new Fletch igniters. I'm not going to turn this whole channel into a new Fletch, into just telling you how much I like the new Fletches. No, I can't get that out of there. That's great. I just got done telling you I like the new Fletches, and now it won't come out. If I can get that out of there, we'll get it out of there. Just pull it out, Rich. It's not that hard. But you put your fingers on there and boom, turn it off, and it turns off so nice, and you slide it back into its little plastic home, and then it fits into an insert that is JB welded in here. So much better, I think, really, than even the nocks that come on these things. What I really like about this is that this shaft is now reinforced with that aluminum insert, right? Very similar to what's on the front end. When I glued these in here, that longer 110 grain insert provides additional stability, additional strength on the front end of this arrow. I think that's really important. I really like that. And by doing that, so we're getting that added benefit. What I'm going to do, the key with this, first is just marking the length, all right? So the ones I'm making out of the 20 inchers, these are all green blazers, and these have white blazers, the 16.5 inch arrows for future reference. She needs 3 additional ones because there were only 3 that we could get the inserts out of to increase those inserts. And I was unable to get the inserts out of 3 other ones, so they just couldn't pull them. So I'm going to cut these off because I really don't have any more use for these 20 inchers. So we'll know what was a 20 incher because it'll have the green veins, right? But the key is really just to measure first. I've got a white Sharpie or a silver Sharpie so that I can mark it on these black arrows. So we're just going to take the 16.5 inch and line up the 20 inch with it like this. I'm just going to line up the ends of the nocks, right, where not counting the insert, but just from end of arrow to end of arrow. Take our little marker. And I've already made a mark on there, but I'm just going to double check it, and that mark does look good. But I've already started doing this marking process, and then I thought, man, let's make a video about this. Do the same thing with the next guy. I'm just going to line up the end of that shaft so it looks good, and then we're going to put a mark where we want to cut. And if I cut along that line and cut that off, it will be a good length of an arrow. Take this last dude, put him up here. Line up the ends of those. Like that, like so. Just get it where it wants to be. If I could hold it. It'd be a lot easier if I had Genevieve here helping me, don't you think? And then we'll mark it like that. If I cut them along those lines, we should be good to go. Man, there is a difference with that insert. This arrow, the noticeable difference, I swear this arrow, 16.5 inches, weighs a considerable amount more than the 20 incher. So I am excited about that from a penetration standpoint. She didn't lack for penetration too much with deer anyway on Bunjie Jr., but a little bit of extra penetration can't hurt, especially when we're using a 150 grain. So hacker, we're using the 150 grain 3-inch expandable, right? So that 3 inches needs a little extra oomph to fit out the other side of that animal. And if you go hitting shoulder blades, you go hitting meat, something like that, take one of those less than perfect shots, which I have been known to do as of late. Sometimes it doesn't always work out the way you hoped, but kind of nice to have a bigger broadhead, but also a little bit extra penetration if that unfortunate event arises. Basically what I'm going to do, got my safety gear on here. I do have safety, I'm not even kidding. I have my safety glasses on, tuck my tie in there so I don't get that wrapped up in the Dremel. You don't need that. But basically this is pretty straightforward. This is not the biggest of deals. I'm just going to set those out of the way there. We've got the Dremel ready to go. And I'll square it up a little bit with the Dremel. Good enough for me. The nice thing about this little insert, okay, is going to add quite a bit of strength to it, okay? Because, especially with all this JB Weld on here, I'm just going to slide that in. And when I'm putting that in there, now see a lot of it came out the end, not a problem. We're just going to grab a paper towel right here. A piece of paper towel and clean that off. But the nice thing about that is, it won't add too much weight. This JB Weld doesn't, because we didn't use an awful lot, right? If you use an awful lot, you'll have a problem. But by cleaning that off of there, that in those little grooves is now seated in there nicely. Now here's one thing that I'm going to do, a little bit extra step. Set this out of the way quick, but I'm going to do this with each of the arrows. This is the Hacker practice head. It's all dirty because it's been through some targets. We're going to screw that on here, and you can see I could turn this all day because that insert is turning because that JB Weld has not yet set. Not a problem. But we are going to get it set just like that. Perfect. If it were like that, you follow me? You see what I'm doing here? What I'm looking for? I want to turn it until, I'll just keep turning it just to show you. But I'm going to set it flat, okay? We'll say the numbered one. Doesn't really matter which one, but because these don't have cock vanes. But we kind of do now because this is an Excalibur. It'll have a flat knock, so we're not worried about that. It has a flat knock on the end. But I want these blades to be able to line up horizontally. It does not make much difference in terms of accuracy, really. It can, I suppose. But with the Swacker, this is a long broadhead, and I want these flat so that when I put this in the shooting rail, these blades will be flat, okay? Just flat. And the nice thing about that is with them just flat, sitting like this, it'll sit like this. If these were to open prematurely on the rail, they won't hit the stirrup, okay? Because it's going to be like this going down the crossbow. What it does when it gets down range, I can't control necessarily. But if you're ever worried about that, that's the only thing.
It's away from your face then.
It's away from the crossbow,
Yeah.
right, because it'll be out of there. If you set it like this and it went down the rail, I suppose if it opened up and caught the stirrup, that could happen. People have told me they've had broadheads open up and hit the stirrups. That doesn't really happen too much with modern broadheads. I'm not afraid of that coming out of our crossbows because we're shooting 300, 350, somewhere in that range. These crossbow arrows probably are not traveling with enough oomph on the initial launch that these are time-tested 10-year-old broadheads. I do not doubt that they're going to be okay. But if you got to pick a location, as long as we're putting these in there, kid, right? We might as well put them in this way, right? Now I'll just grasp that little insert gently, unscrew that practice head, and now this arrow can just sit and dry. That's all it's got to do. I'm just going to smear it on there good to where it fills in those little crevasses, the little crevices that are naturally formed within that little insert. These are 110 grain inserts. They should push Genevieve's arrow weight up significantly, huh? And we'll weigh them when they're done. I think we're going to be in the same ballpark on each one of them because there's only so much of this JB Weld or any epoxy that can remain inside that shaft. When I smooth this in there, there's only so much that can stay in there. And as I move it down, it's going to push it, and around the very end of it, it's going to be in there real good around the end of the insert. So we won't have a problem with that. I really think that what's going to happen is when I slide this in there, see, watch. It's going to smear it all up. I'm going to slide it on like that. And it's going to ball up around the end of it. See that? But now I'm just going to grab my rag and I'm going to clean that up real good. Get it really good and cleaned off, all of it. Because if it dries on here, you aren't getting it off. Once that stuff dries, come back tomorrow, and if you've got a film on here, that film's on here for good. But if we do this, and we clean it up real nice, I think we're good, okay? And what's happened is the remainder of that JB Weld that's up in there can only be so much weight. And it might add a grain or two to the front end of the arrow, but adding a grain or two to the front end of an arrow is never a bad thing, right? As long as they're all kind of the same, we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be safe. I think we're going to be okay here. So what we're going to do, we're going to screw this dirty old nasty practice point on here again. And I'm just going to lay it down. And I'm going to, see, this one came up a little bit crooked. See that, kid? You see that, do you? You see how that's a little crooked? We don't want that. No, we want them the same. So we're just going to turn it a little bit. Ta-da, that's good enough. Yeah, there you go, break it loose. Do you see what I did?
Yep.
Does it kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense. All right, and we're not going to pull that insert out. We're going to leave the insert in, and we're going to set it over there gently. Kaboom! There's 2 arrows. Do you see how easy this is? It's so much fun once you get going on it. So we're going to have 3 good ones, I think. 3 killer ProFlights, little quills, heavy quills, right, Genevieve?
Yeah.
So I think you're going to be in good shape. And I think you're going to be killing deer, 3 of them. We'll dress you up some other ones too here in a bit. But I think if you got an arrow, your quiver only holds 3, right?
Yeah.
This will get you enough to practice with. Then we'll see what we're doing for backup. So this should get you to opening day. I think by the time we travel to Maryland, you're going to need some extras, right?
Yeah, maybe I want to shoot 4 in one sitting.
You might. Who
If I
doesn't,
feel like
right?
it.
Who doesn't? So I'll grab this dude best I can. We're going to slide that in here. We'll turn it while we're doing it. But you can see I didn't really get the JB Weld epoxy down around the very end of the insert, the front end of it, but that will definitely be on there because of the way that I'm pushing it on. Now I'll get this and we'll clean that right off. Okay. What do you think of that? And I'll make sure that I've got it nice and clean, and it looks like my arrow is nice and clean. Genevieve's arrow is nice and clean. And we will push this on and screw that in place. And we'll set this aside for just a second. We're going to set it down. Look at that. Look at that. It's hard to demonstrate it when they all turn out pretty flat, but we're going to get the thickest of that off of there. And now Okay, that's nice and flat, just the way we like it. Make sure it stayed that way when I was taking it off. All right, very good. Okay, I keep grabbing the actual broadhead. I think is the problem. So that is the third arrow. Look at that. You got a third arrow that is all set up for future use. Now, we're not done. No, we are not done with Miss Genevieve's arrow broadheads. We're done with the practice point for just now. But the back end of these things, kiddo, remember that?
Yeah.
Now we have igniters. We're going to do that in a separate video and show you how we're installing the igniters from New Flash. These are really cool knocks. They're my favorite of knocks. We're going to do that in the next video.
Mm-hmm.